Good to go.
Excellent. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. And before we get started, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. And of course, this is season 4. So I do invite you to have a look at the 3 previous seasons. There might be something there that may resonate a little bit more with your realities. Some of the topics that are there are timeless. So you could go check that out. And we're going to jump right in today with my guest, Sarah Boyle. I have an amazing there's so many things. I think I'm just going to pass the mic along to you, but really excited to have Sarah, especially this to start the year off with some healthy habits. So I'm going to put the spotlight on you, Sarah. Thank you so much for coming on. And before we get started, can you talk a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here, especially going into the new year, because I find personal trainers, health coaches like myself are definitely busier going into the new year. So I work as a personal trainer, a nutrition, and a lifestyle coach. I got into it through being an athlete. I was a runner, a swimmer, a triathlete, and I started coaching swimming at a high level, and it didn't sit right with me. So after the 2016 Olympic trials, none of my swimmers had made the Olympic team, which is fairly
Mhm.
common. It's very limited in spots. And I watched a lot of them quit, something they had been training for a long time, something that I had put a lot of work into and they had as well. And when I took some time to think about it, I realized that I was creating the same burnt out athletes that I had been at that time. And I was so young, I was in my 20s. So I took a step back from coaching and I got into personal training, just general training, learning about that side of things and how that could support um, humans and the body. And from there, I realized that I didn't have the full picture. So I got into nutrition coaching as well, because the two do go hand in hand. And from there, it was just kind of a domino effect, one thing after another. The how you sleep has a big impact into it, and so do the habits that you have as well. And so,
Mhm.
as the years have gone by, I now consider myself a health or wellness coach, which encompasses both the personal training, the nutrition, and the lifestyle habits as well. And specifically, in the last 2 years, I've taken a specification in women's health with the perimenopause and menopause transition, because there's a lot of talk about that right now, a lot of science coming out, but finding that a lot of my clients don't know how to break that science down into the everyday language in terms that they can understand. So that's where
Yeah,
we're at now.
that's amazing. And it is so important, I find, even because I'm in that age bracket where it's also coming from, and it's sad to say, but it's so true. The female body doesn't work like a male body. So especially when we get into the older age, the science, a lot of the data is for males. And so
Mhm.
if we train like males, we're actually not doing ourselves a service. So it's so important to you understand the science behind it and you can help the ladies through that. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's definitely something where when you understand the why behind it, it's a little bit easier to stick to it and be consistent with your goals. Yeah,
Exactly. Because now you it's not just I, I've been told to do this. Now you understand what's like the work that you're actually putting in.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I love
Mhm.
your approach, the holistic approach of because you get a personal trainer, and then you get a nutritionist, and then you get it's and they're not the parts are not connected when you're missing something. So the fact that you're working with all of it, it really does, if you're not sleeping well, it influences your other
It really
habits
does.
and vice versa. So I think it's great that they're getting the full thing with you. I think
Mhm.
it's a great thing to go in. We're gonna jump. I'd like to jump in into the habits because now
Yeah.
this episode will air in January. So of course, people had the best intentions to get started for the new year. We
Definitely.
always hear that. We always
Yep.
have our grocery list of things we want to do for the new year's. We want to better ourselves, but life happens, and then
Mhm.
things don't go necessarily our way, or life keeps going, I should say. So, what are your thoughts? To relight that spark, we've gone over I call the holiday hangover, just from the not drinking, but from the not following the same routine, the extra food, the extra
Mhm.
stress with the family, and everything else. Um, what are some tips or some the way that you look at it in terms of uh, rekindling those, sparking those healthy habits again, so that we're going in the right direction for the rest of the year?
Yeah, and I think it's important because I look at it a little bit different than a lot of people do. There's a big trend right now towards not setting New Year's resolutions. That New Year's resolutions, they just set you up for failure. We don't want to set them, we don't need them. But
Yeah.
I love a fresh start. Like, I think it doesn't matter whether it's New Year's or it's September or it's Monday or Thursday or whatever day you want. Take that date and use that as a restart. And so I think where a lot of people go, they miss the mark on the New Year's resolution is it's an all or nothing thing. I'm not going to have any sugar. I'm not going to have any alcohol. And then they do once, and it's like, well, there goes that New Year's resolution. We're just going to let it go. And so I use with my clients a red light, green light approach to it. So as you're coming up to your goal, you look at it, so maybe your goal is to move your body 5 times per week. So you look at that goal, and it doesn't mean that you have to go to the gym and hit a high intensity workout every single time you go to the gym. That might be the plan, but you have to check in with how you're feeling. And so you need to have that, the red light or the green light. So the green light is I'm feeling great, full go. We're going to go ahead with the workout with the high intensity plan. The yellow light is, well, I'm not feeling 100%. I think I might be getting sick. So I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do just a little bit today. I'm going to go and do, a couple squats, keep it a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to get some walking in or get some cardio in. And then there's the red light. And there's, being able to listen to your body and know when training is a stressor on our body. We know that. And it's going to
Yeah.
push me over the stress that my body can handle right now. So what I actually need today is I need to take a step back and I need to rest my body. And that's that red light. It's not a bad thing. And if you're getting to the point where every week you find you're doing that yellow light or that red light, it means that you might need to adjust your plan. If you look
Mm.
back on the past month and more than 60% of the time you were taking an easier option, then you might just need to reevaluate what you're doing. So that I'm going to exercise 5 times a week doesn't mean that high intensity. It could be, well, I'm going to exercise. Sometimes that's going to be high intensity. Sometimes that's going to be cardio. Sometimes that might be mobility or Pilates. And it can look different ways to stick to the same goal. So I'm always more leaning towards the flexibility in our goals and our resolutions rather than the perfection in them.
I love that. And I know you mentioned that we'll talk about your book a little bit later, but in your book, you
Mhm.
do talk about flexible habits, which is so important. Which leads me kind of in another question I wanted to, because we get into the winter blog where we're talking about the seasonal depression.
Mhm.
It is a reality for people when you have things that are not necessarily going our way, the weather, we're not really wanting to go outside if you're up north.
Yeah.
So, do you have any words of wisdom that you could share with us where we can catch those symptoms ahead of time and give ourselves great, approach it with grace, but to keep going and continue to work on those good, healthy habits?
hmm There's a few approaches we'll talk about from that. And with one of them, I think it's recognizing that you're going to go into it. If it's something that happens every year, it doesn't have to be something like, well, here it is, and now we suffer through it. There's things you can start beforehand. So exercise, we know, increases your serotonin, increases your dopamine, can help to mitigate that. In Canada, it does get cold. We live up north. We don't like to go outside. We have days like Monday where the ice really prevented a lot of people from driving around in the city. And so finding ways to move your body. YouTube is a great option. I've got some, home workouts that you can do up on my YouTube. There's a ton of other free sessions that you can find there. It doesn't need to be something high intensity like we talked about. It could be something just, well, it's really cold today, so I'm going to do mobility. And that's what I'm going to do. Trying still to get your steps in is important and tough when you're doing it around the house, but whether that's um, I'm going to go up and down the stairs more often, right? I'm going to put something instead of stacking my 3 bins that I have to go up the stairs. I'm going to take 1 bin at a time upstairs, come all the way back down. So to create the steps. So those are some good ways when it's a little bit too cold. I think vitamin D intake in Canada is something that we really need to look at, and getting sunshine on your face and in your eyes, especially first thing in the morning, can help as well. So that could be as much as, bundling up, keeping your face clear and walking outside and staring up at the sun for, 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes is all we need for that to get that intake. They do recommend doing that before you put your sunscreen on your face, and 5-10 minutes is okay enough to do that, just to make sure that there is nothing blocking us. I grew up in Southern California, so adjusting to winter in Canada was very tough for me. Um, Initially, I started to supplement with my vitamin D intake until I learned the habits, going outside and getting sunshine on my face, not wrapping that scarf right up around my face, so that I am getting some of that sunshine on there. But supplementation is also a possibility as well. So something to talk to the doctor or naturopath about, when it comes to supplementation with vitamin D.
Mhm.
And one that I find that helps the most with my clients in the winter is community. So finding a group of people that you like to work out with that, I've had ladies show up at the gym and they're like, I don't want to be here. I don't feel good, but I wanted to see you guys. So I'm here. And they start their workout. And with 15 minutes, I look over and I'm like, you feel better, don't you? And they're like, yeah, I knew I would. But sometimes it's just getting there that's hard. So whether you're working out with a friend or there's a class you like to take once a week or something like that makes a big difference. For myself, it was Boxing Day. Boxing Day, I knew that I wouldn't want to work out. I eat a lot on Christmas. I eat a lot on Christmas Eve. And the last thing I want to do in the morning is work out. But I signed my fiance and I up for a workout. It was just a community workout. I didn't push it too hard to the point where we got in the car and he's like, you dogged that workout. And I was like, yeah, I did, but I did it. And that's what matters. So finding the communities, finding the spaces that make you want to go there, excluding the activity, makes the activity easier to get to. And on the worst day, give yourself 10 minutes. 10 minutes of walking on a treadmill or warming up is enough to get your dopamine flowing through your body, enough to get that serotonin going. And you might feel like finishing your workout after that. If you give yourself 10 minutes and you still don't feel like it, then pack it in. And that's okay because you gave it a fair enough shot. So the 10-minute rule is definitely an important one to follow with that as well.
I love that. And you're so right. Sometimes the hardest part is just getting yourself out the door or
Mm-hmm.
getting the shoes on, So just, yeah.
100%.
All right, yeah, just to say, I'm just gonna walk to the end of the driveway and come back. But then by the time
Yep.
you get to the end of the driveway, you're like, you know what? I'm good. So then you start walking, you start moving. So it
Yeah.
does make a difference. And I know this, so those who are watching who don't understand how cold it can get up north if you're nice and cozy somewhere in the south, it does play a factor some days where you just like, your body takes it a beating from that. I have so many questions. I'm trying to focus. Do you have any? I guess I'm going to put you on the spot with this one, but
Mhm.
for somebody who did really say, okay, this year I'm putting my health first, it's
Yeah.
going to be a priority. It can be very overwhelming to say, how do
Mhm.
you want to overhaul everything, throwing out everything in your cupboard, and you get all the suits to work out. What are your recommendations to say if you want to start without overwhelming yourself, without burning out, like you said earlier with
Mhm.
your team? What is the best way for anybody who starts, who hasn't been active for a while, let's say, and they want to prioritize their health this year? What are the best ways to start?
Yeah, I would say with that, whether you're, when I'm looking at someone who has poor nutrition, who doesn't sleep well and doesn't exercise, the number one thing that you can do is exercise because that increases your metabolism. It helps you sleep better. It influences your sleep wake cycle. So moving your body really is important. And if you're doing nothing right now, start with walking. It's baby steps. So it's not, I want to do a high rocks race, which is this crazy intense race. It's okay, let's start with walking. Okay, I know there's 8 kilometers in there. So let's just see if we can get to the 8 kilometers of walking, and start with baby steps because it's the consistency that matters more than doing things perfectly. So if you're consistently getting out of the house or moving your body, that matters more than exactly what you're doing. From there, exercise in the morning is important. And then when we're looking at the nutrition, it's looking at where you're getting your protein from. I know with my friends who I look at, they have a lot of kids who only eat chicken nuggets. And so the parents end up eating chicken nuggets as well, which isn't the worst thing that you could have. But I have a box of chicken nuggets in my freezer. And in preparation for this, I was looking at the macros on the side of that. So it's chicken nuggets. So that's a protein source. But when we look at that, it's 9 grams of protein and 19 grams of carbohydrates for 2 chicken strips on there. So it's not necessarily the best protein choice. It's not the worst if that's going to hit you for sure, but you have to factor in, well, I'm having that. There's already a large portion of carbohydrates in that serving as well. So I shouldn't be pairing that with the French fries. I should be pairing that with something that might have some greens or some vegetables or things like that. So starting to look at what is in the food that you're eating and trying to be protein and then fiber forward with it. So making
Right.
sure general guideline we can look at is 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And that's something to aim for. So the very first thing you need to do is have an idea of what you're getting right now. And then you can look at where your goal is. And I like to recommend a 10% increase.
Okay.
I don't even want to say per week because it's until it gets comfortable. If you're struggling to hit 100 grams of protein, it doesn't mean every week you go up. Next week is 110. It's once you're consistently hitting that number, then you're ready to increase that 10%.
Okay.
When focusing on those two things, if you're getting your workouts in the morning, it will eventually start to influence that sleep wake cycle. Um, but there's a lot of other factors that go along with that as well. Our morning routines, our evening routines, and setting ourselves up for success for sleep as well.
Right.
Mhm.
That's great. It's kind of encouraging to hear that, some people think they need to go so dramatic and change everything, but just to start slowly. It's doable,
Yeah. Well,
right?
I think
It's
that
doable.
that's why those resolutions don't last, is because we're doing something that's so shocking to our body that we do get tired from it and we do get exhausted. And the biggest skill, if anyone can learn this year that they don't already know how to do, is listening to their body. Because most of the time, we wait until our body is screaming at us to do anything about it instead of listening to those whispers when the fix can be a lot easier.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what happens a lot, especially in my age bracket. It's a lot of people that I know that unfortunately had to have a health scare to start taking it seriously.
Mhm.
We've been saying for so long, I gotta get back on track, but then something happens and like, no, I don't want this
Exactly.
to,
So
before we
common
can.
for women, for moms who are taking, working a full-time job, who are taking care of a family, taking care of parents and things like that. It's really easy to put everybody else first because you have to do those things. But when you do take a step back and you take care of yourself first, you do see that you have more energy to do the rest of the things. But
Yeah,
as women, it's so common to give to everybody else before pouring into your own cup.
yeah,
Definitely something that we're learning to work around and to
yeah.
satisfy everybody.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to talk about it because you just mentioned it, that sandwich generation where we're taking care of our kids, taking care of our aging
Mhm.
parents, but also looking at it in the sense that what I'm doing, I'm showing the example for my children to
Mhm.
pick up on those healthy habits so they don't have to struggle later on. So you're doing your family a service by taking care of yourself as well, which is so important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Before we talk about your book, I just had the one question because you are a proper health coach. You've had
Yes.
years, extensive training on it. Uh, this is your life. You've
Mhm.
breathed this. But there's a lot of trendy coaches out there, the influencers that just have probably watched a few YouTube channels, YouTube videos, and
Mhm.
now they're the experts. Or, can you kind of help us through how can we find the real health, what I call the real, but the
Mhm.
properly trained healthcare professional? There are little signs or questions that we can ask that will help us understand exactly who we're thinking of hiring.
Yeah, I think, I was very resistant to online coaching when COVID happened. I didn't want to do it. I like working in person with people. I love the connection and the energy. And jumping onto online coaching for myself has been hard because how do you differentiate yourself between, this person who was very fit and has decided that they want to work from home and become a trainer? And so I think the biggest thing to look for is certifications. So
Mm,
it might be tough to find sometimes on Instagram or Facebook, but what you can do is if you're looking for someone in your area, is you can go and do a Google search. So that other search engine that we have that's not ChatGPT or other stuff, and
right.
you can actually take a look at websites to see what there is. So looking at certifications, and there's a ton that are out there, seeing what their certifications are, and then just giving them a little bit of a search. A weekend course is not a bad thing. Like your personal training certification course you take is a weekend and then an exam that you study for with some practical stuff. It's not a lot, but there can also be history that goes along with that. So, I did my personal training course 12 years ago. So I've had a lot of experience under my belt since then. And
Yeah.
then I've gone on to further my education. So doing other certifications since then and really looking for people who are doing continuing education And I think that's important, especially when it comes to women's health, because there is a lot of emerging research right now that we're seeing what they recommended for women 10 years ago is different than what they're recommending now. And it's a great thing. But if I hadn't updated any of my certifications or taken any courses, I wouldn't be knowledgeable on that. So I think it's important to make sure that you're doing your research and not just grabbing that influencer who has, 30,000 followers on Instagram. Doing a little bit of research into what their background is
Right.
definitely important as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's, I just wanted to, yeah, to ask because it is something. And I mean, there are some influencers on there on social media that do have the proper training as well, but it's to
Definitely.
be mindful when it comes to your health to make sure
Hmm.
that they actually are able to help you in your situation because it's not a cookie cutter. It worked for me when I was in my 20s. It's not going to work for me when I'm in my 40s. So let's find
Yeah.
somebody that's important to keep up that certification
Yeah. And,
to,
I fell into the same trap. How what was this back in? Oh, several years before COVID, I had myself hired a coach and I had my specific goals, and it was a coach that my friend worked with. So we're a couple months in, we have different goals, different bodies, different whatever. And we happened to be working out together and realized that we were doing the exact same workout and we had been doing the exact same workouts. And so we had hired a coach who we have a phone call with each week, but we were actually getting a cookie cutter plan. And so that was on me for not doing my research into them. What had happened is there is the main coach who oversees it, but then they hire other people to work for them that don't have that same knowledge base. So you might be thinking you're working for, I'm going to throw this out as an example, Sarah Boyd. But if I were to have 4 or 5 people working under me, they're just doing the cookie cutter plans and having those follow through. That's why I like to offer virtual calls with my clients once a week. So it could be a phone call, it could be a Zoom call. We could meet up in person if we're local to make sure that we're getting that touch point. Because as a coach as well, I want to see how they're doing. You can see people's energy. You can see how they're feeling. You can see whether or not they're fibbing to you about getting their workouts in and just filling in the numbers. So there is value to having that opportunity to have, well, could we do a phone call touch point instead of a texting touch point so that you're getting that visual with that person?
and you're
Yeah,
getting the energy level, the real, because on a text you always,
exactly.
oh, I'm great. But when you talk to them, like, yeah, no, you're not doing good.
Yeah, yeah. The face gives it
You
away
really
every
do.
time.
I love that. That's great. So let's jump into your book. You
Yeah,
have the amazing, it's the Habit Revolution. If you want to show it up, because I don't have a
yeah.
good. That's I love this one. It's great. Can you talk to us a little bit about how it came to be and where people can get their hands on?
Yes, this was a labor of love. It took me far too long to write, but it was a good thing. It was a little bit of a self-discovery for myself as well. There's a lot of this book was born out of my own athletic experience, the experience of working with my clients. I have a lot of client stories in here. And so when I started working on it initially, it was something that was, well, it's a lockdown. I need something to do. And it was going to be on the 6 pillars of your health, which include your physical fitness, your nutrition, your sleep, your social connection with other people, your connection with nature as well, and your emotional health. And as I started writing, I realized that I really only know the physical components. I know the sleep, I know nutrition, and I know the um, wow, nutrition, sleep, and training. There we go. And so those were really strong. And then when I started writing about the other ones, I had no authority and I didn't feel like I had the credibility to be talking about those. And when I gave the first draft into my publisher, she's like, we need more. Like, this is such a dip into everything. I want more information. You need to expand it. And I had no issue expanding the physical realm of things, but I couldn't expand the rest of it. So I took a step back and decided that I was going to cut it down just to the physical realm. And from there, I'm writing it and I'm trying to keep my client avatars here. And I'm realizing that I don't need to talk about men here. The majority of my clients are women. The majority of the information that my clients want is geared towards women. So that was about 10 months ago where I decided to focus solely on women. And the book wrote itself because I already had the information. I had the experience in working with clients. I had the client stories, successes, and the things that didn't work. So it was definitely took me into a different realm with my coaching and what I wanted to work with as well. So that's where the self-discovery came in, as I really just
Mhm.
decided that I wanted to be a woman's health coach instead of just a health coach for men and women.
Yeah. I love that you
Mhm.
mentioned that because for anybody who's thinking of writing a book, it is transformational. Like it just
Yes.
it was the same experience I had with my book. It you know I it just you keep and it does take time. Just
Hmm.
accept the fact that it will take you longer than you think. It could
Yeah.
you could write the book so quickly, but you're going to reflect on it and say, is that really the message I want to send out? Or so yeah,
Yeah.
it does help you get clear on where it is you want to go with it, and that it gives you
Hmm.
that credibility. So it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And
Yeah.
so it's really tough to learn that you can't write the same way you talk to clients. So I have these phrases, like my key phrases that I use all the time, and you read them on paper, you're like, ugh, this doesn't work. And yeah, I think the coolest thing, what I really like about it is it's more of a workbook. So after every chapter, in the middle of chapters, there's journal prompts where, okay, what you just read, here's a question on it, and you can write it out. Gives you the space to do that, gives you the journal prompt. When it's talking about finding your goals and what your health goals are going to be, it walks you through how to set them and how to readjust them if you need to do it. Because this is women's health, there's a cycle tracker in there, and it teaches you how to follow your cycle. It teaches you how to figure out what foods feel good during which phase of your cycle and which don't feel good for you. Doesn't mean that you can eat any food at any part of your cycle that you want, but our goal is to feel good. And so there are ways for you to feel better or not through the things that you eat. And it's really giving people the trackers and the ability to actually write it down and come back to it to see how it's affecting them.
I love that. That's such a great book to have. Yeah. I like that interact. It's not just theory, it's just something that you can put into practice. I love
Exactly.
that. Yeah. What's the best place to get your book if anybody who's listening is interested with how do they get their hands on it?
Yeah, Amazon is the best place. The Habit Revolution. We're still sitting as a bestseller, which is really
Mhm.
exciting. I never thought that it would be there, but Amazon is the best place to get it at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that is awesome. And I'm so happy. When I saw that, I'm like, yes, she's still up. Because I
Yeah.
mean, Amazon fluctuates so quickly, but it's the fact that you're holding on the first as the
Yeah.
bestseller. That's amazing. It just
Yeah.
shows
It's been really
how
fun.
good of a book it is. It's an amazing book. So
Hmm.
be sure to get your copy for those who are listening. And of course, there's work involved with that. So can you talk to us a
Hmm.
little bit about the programs that you do offer? And I know you have some groups as well for nutrition and for training. So can you talk
Yeah.
to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so where I really specialize is on the basics. So getting people started with things. And you mentioned earlier, what do you do if you can't get out of the house? So I lead an online workout twice a week. It is live on Zoom, and I do upload the videos to YouTube afterwards and send them out so that you are able to do them at your own time if it doesn't work for you. These workouts started initially at the very start of COVID with my senior swimmers that I had. So it was geared for them. These are what I will call workouts, where we're doing 30 minutes of mobility and 30 minutes of very basic strength work circuits. And it's grown to where for them, that's their workout. But some of my clients who come who are younger, maybe they're new moms, they're recovering. For them, it's their mobility and their recovery sessions. You know, we talked about how it's important to have your high intensity workouts, but it's also important to have those low intensity movement sessions. So there is a very wide spectrum on these Zoom workouts, from those new moms who are just getting back into it to the athletes who are looking to have a little bit of recovery in their week to the older active adults who are looking for something that is doable from home and manageable as well. So that is one that I love, and it's been something that's going for about 6 years now, and it's really grown and changed. When you're live on Zoom, I'm able to visually see you, so you're not just following the workout on YouTube. I don't call people out unless I know they want to be called out. But if I do see people that are making a common mistake or form, I will cue to make some changes on it that way. So that is the benefit of having that interaction of being live on Zoom with someone.
Yeah.
Uh, from there, I do have a nutrition course as well. So it's called the Balanced Energy System training. So the BEST is the acronym, and it's really breaking down and teaching the basics of nutrition. So what's a carb, what's a protein, what's a fiber, what's a fat, where do we get them, why do we need them, and timing them throughout your day based on what you want to do. So if you're exercising or not, what are the different nutrients that you need? as we go through the course, so this is a online masterclass that we do. We meet once a week for 30 minutes on Zoom, where we talk about the topic for that week. And we have 15 minutes for questions as well. And then you have the week to practice that. And so we break down the macronutrients. We talk about how to decipher between physical hunger and emotional hunger. So whether or not you're hungry or not. And it really breaks it down into bite-sized pieces. And I find when you have one topic to focus on for a week, you're not getting overloaded with information. So we start with protein and then fiber because those are the two that we discussed earlier that have the biggest impact with the least amount of resistance on our body. So we start with those, and you have time to go through and figure out what it is. It is a 3-month masterclass, so 12 weeks, because it does take at least 12 weeks to build a habit. So I want to make sure that you're not getting the information in the first month and then falling off the track. So while some could say it could be condensed, the importance is we're building a habit. At the end of that 3 months, I send a check-in a month later. So my group that just finished at the beginning of December is about to get their check-in tonight. And so it's about, and this is a big one for them because they went through 3 months of changing their eating habits. And now they just had the biggest test you're going to have all year of the holidays. And how did it go?
No kidding.
Yeah, so
Wow.
we'll see how that goes. But it's always a good one because they learn that you can treat yourself. It's not what you eat between Christmas and New Year's that makes the difference. It's what you eat from New Year's to Christmas that makes a bigger difference. A lot of what happens between Christmas and New Year's is soul filling. It fills your cup. Those foods, that spending, we're a culture that likes to eat with our family. And so
Yeah.
it's important to have those things, those activities, those events, but also remember that we don't actually gain 5 pounds in a week. It doesn't work like that, right? You might be retaining water from the salts, the carbohydrates that you've eaten. So it's a great course to be able to learn the basics of what you need and how you can manage the basics through the ups and downs of everyday life.
Right. I love
Mhm.
that. That's such a great program for somebody who really wants to go deep into the
Well, I
whole.
think I don't know about you, but I don't remember where in school I was taught what I need to eat, let alone how what I eat influences how I feel through my month as I became a menstruating woman.
Yeah.
And I definitely know my mom was not told how she should eat when she started going through perimenopause and menopause. Actually, my mom had a hysterectomy, so she skipped perimenopause. She went straight into menopause, which is just more of a lot of women
So,
who have that. That's like a huge
yeah.
change immediately overnight that you're experiencing, where perimenopause is miserable, but it's a 10 to 15-year transition that people have to feeling that way. So
Yeah.
what I like to do through these courses that I offer online are give people the basics so that they know how to change it as they go through life. Because as you know, I'm going to look at men and women here, what men should eat through their life, it more or less stays the same from when they've finished puberty all the way up through the rest of their life. But as
So,
women, how we metabolize carbohydrates changes with our hormones. And now we're in a trend of seeing women having babies later in life. And so seeing that, well, are you dealing with postnatal? Are you going
mm,
through anything with that? Or are you actually entering perimenopause and seeing the overlap of those two things as well? So, having the education and knowing how your body works and knowing how to notice the changes, it makes a really big difference towards maintaining consistency.
yeah. Well, that is so true because what they mention the food pyramid. That's about it, and
Yeah.
that's it. And
Yeah.
for many of us, we will be active throughout our school years, but as soon as we graduate from high school, we don't keep up our sports or anything like that.
Mhm.
Life happens. And so yeah, to have that consistency and continuancy, if that's a word, to
Yeah.
say let's keep that into our years so that we can also show our children to maintain those habits so that
Exactly.
they have an easier go at it. So
Mhm.
that's great. How can people reach you if they want to know more about your work, or if they want to work with you, if they want to see what you have to offer? What's the best way to have a
Yeah,
look?
so if you're online, my website is sarahboyd.ca, or you can find me on Instagram as Sarah the Health Coach. And that's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube.
Oh, that's good. I'll put that
Yeah.
in the description as well so people can have a look
Yeah,
at
that'd
it
be great.
and refer
Yeah,
back to it. I could keep you on for so much longer. We could definitely have another episode on so many things. But
we could.
before we wrap up, I do ask my guests this question, and I can't remember if I told you about it, but I do ask, what do you want to be when you grow up?
What do I want to be? Oh boy, that is a really great question. Um,
Put you right on the spot there. Yeah, I usually tell
yeah.
people ahead of time, but yeah.
It's a really interesting one to ask me one of this right now because I always thought that I would have kids by the time I was 30. And then I turned 30 and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like my 20s, but with money. I can do what I want. And so I'm 30, gonna be 35 and getting married this summer. And so I think like looking into my next future is to look at having children. And that's where my life will go into for the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that's kind of what I look up as a grown up, but I'm also trying to turn my business into something that I can do while doing that. So offering these online courses as well. I really like working with women and leading them and teaching them how to live healthier lives because I know that while I've had ups and downs in my life, the fitness and nutrition is something that you have control over in a life where we often don't have control over much. So
Mhm.
when I grow up, I do really want to be a mom. That's something that I am looking forward to doing, but also kind of staying on this path now with helping women live healthier lives and
I
balance
love
the two. We'll see how I do it as we get into that.
That's the only way you know you can do it is once you're in it. That's the only
Yeah,
way because you
exactly,
can prepare
exactly.
for it. But motherhood will change things around a little bit. But no, I
Yeah,
think that's great. That's why I love asking that question because we are still evolving. We're still
yeah.
growing. And it stems from a little girl who was interviewing adults for a school project. And because adults ask kids all the time, she thought that was the norm to ask
Okay.
like, what do you want to be when you grow up? So she would
Yeah,
ask the adults, and they would all say, well, I'm grown. I'm already doing what.
yeah.
So she was upset. She didn't understand. And when she asked me, I'm just a big kid. So I answered, and she was all happy. So I told her I would ask my guests. But
I love that.
I don't ask
Yeah,
kids that question, but I do ask because I don't like them to think that they need to find something when they're 5 or 6. But adults is fun because I could
it
ask you that
is.
question in 2 years and it could be
Yeah,
completely
no,
different,
it
right?
probably will be very different. Yeah, yeah.
I love that. Oh, I love that for you too. I think it's great. It's such a yeah, you'll be busy.
Yeah, be busy. Yeah. I'm not grown up yet. We're 35, but we're still getting there.
Sure.
I love that
I,
question.
yeah, I love that. And I just love how you said, well, so when I grow up, I want to. And I just love it. You fell right into it. I was like,
Yeah.
yes, I
We're
love
both
that.
just big children.
We are. And
Yeah.
I'm perfectly happy with that. It's not going to change. I'm going to
No.
be a big kid when I'm 70. I'm going to be my kids and my grandkids will have a run for their money for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's great.
Is there
Wonderful.
anything you wanted to add? I'm going to put you on the spot again. Is anything you want to add before we wrap up? Any words of wisdom or anything before we go?
Yeah, I think, I know there's that trend, like I said, towards not setting New Year's resolutions. But that being said, there's always something that we want to work on. And I think it's important. It's human nature to want to grow and to change and to continue evolving. And so allow yourself some compassion and be flexible with your goals. It doesn't have to be black and white. There's a lot of grayscale in it. And so give yourself the first time if you fall off that New Year's resolution or that goal, hop right back on it. It's okay. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. That's why I like about your approach because it is that flexibility. You're just like, we're human. Life
Mhm.
happens, things will happen, and listen to your body is so important. That's part of the learning process. So I like that the
It
fact that you're
is.
just like, it's okay. We're gonna have those days. Let's just bring it back. Don't give up. And I think it's wonderful. Thank you so much. I've
Thank
taken
you.
notes as you were talking. I'm like, oh yeah, we're
Perfect.
gonna be working on this. So I want to thank you
Wonderful.
anytime, whenever you have something new, you can definitely come back on and give us some more wisdom. I'd love to have you back on.
Thanks, Danielle. This was really fun. Thanks for having
Great.
me.
Thank you. For everybody watching, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. Don't forget to go check out Sarah's website and angles as well on social media to keep going and stay inspired for the rest of the year. And it's between New Year's and Christmas thing that's stuck with me.
Yeah.
Those are the important days. So I love that.
That ends
And
tomorrow, though. Don't forget. Tomorrow's your
that's
last day.
that's right. That's right. We're recording just before New Year's. So yes, I love that. So
Yes, yes.
we're starting right on track. So again, for everybody listening, Thank you so much. And until next time, stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll talk soon.